Morning, it's Dave T1963 and I'm going to do a product review today. Most of you know I'm a traditional archer. I've been shooting traditional archery since I started way back when I was like 15 years old. So we're talking over 40 something years, actually 45 years of shooting traditional bows. And I've used a lot of different release ways. I've shot bare fingered before. Most of the time I tend to wear a glove simply because of the extra protection that I feel that it gives you. But the thing I don't like about a glove is they always tend to develop this crease, and in time that can make your shot a little sloppy. It's just something you deal with. And the fact that here's a glove I bought a year ago. I shoot a lot, folks, daily. And these tend to wear out, and let's face it, these things are not cheap. This is a bear paw, I believe it was. I've shot a lot of different gloves, but this lasted about a year and a half, and I forget what I paid for it, but I'm sure it's close to $40. When I first started, I shot a lot of Cordovon tabs. This is the model I like. I think it's just a simple baitman and it works fine. There's nothing wrong with this. I've had this about 5 or 6 years. The thing I like about it is it really don't develop that groove like a glove does, and it lasts a long time. I do think I get a better release with this. The one thing that I found with a tab is, for me personally, I wind up nicking my nose a lot, and I think that's simply because of how I trim it. I get in tight and the string's closer to my nose than with a glove. Not too long ago, a friend of mine started making tabs, and so I thought, you know what, it's been a long time, I'll go ahead and I'll give it a shot again. And so I ordered one, and I've shot this thing every day for a while now. It's a 3 fingers under tab, and I just ordered a split finger, but it's the Ninja tab. And I don't really know what this material right here is. It's made of 3 layers. It's some kind of synthetic, or it feels synthetic to me, material, a middle leather and then an outer leather. And you can see this tab has not developed that crease like gloves do so often. And like I said, I shoot a lot with this tab. There is absolutely no sign of wear. Now you'll see where my string lies right here, and I trim my tabs. Now something I want to point people to is, when you go to trim a tab, don't lay it out flat, draw your line, and then cut it like that, because when you're shooting, your fingers are curled, okay? You need to mark your tab in this position so that your outer layer and your middle layer are a little bit longer laying flat. And this way, when you curl your fingers, since they got to go around the radius of that curve on the outside, it'll even up, okay? And I typically tend to trim mine pretty short. Let me see if I can get this to show you. Oh, I've got it. When I wear my tab, it's coming about right here to where I'm actually, the string goes in my finger. But as you can see, when I curl around, it covers that. But I keep it where it's curled around to where it's not covering the end of my fingers, and thereby having a lot of extra slap in my tab. I've seen a lot of people that shoot tabs, in my opinion, that are too long, and one, it increases the noise, believe it or not. That tab, especially if it's a multi-layered tab, will make more noise as more materials out there. But second of all, I think it also increases the drag and can cause arrow flight problems. So I keep mine trimmed pretty short, just enough to cover my fingers, and I get that nice smooth release. Okay, but I am not paid in any way by any product I ever come on here and endorse. I endorse something because I tried it and it works well, or better than what I've been trying in the past. And I 100% endorse these Ninja tabs by Jared Schaefer. like I said, I've met him a couple times through Tethered, and he's a friend of mine. But that is not why I'm endorsing this, because honestly, I'm more of a glove guy than I've been a tab guy until I tried this tab, and I fell in love with this thing. It gives a very clean release. Now, form is everything, and I know there's thousands of videos talking about, you know, back tension and all the things, you know. That's probably a whole nother video, but you don't have to be an Olympic target archery person to have good form or crappy form. The most important thing is consistently. Whatever you do, do it consistently. I don't care if you pluck away from your string. If you do that the same way consistently, without creeping forward and all that, you're going to have a good shot. I don't care if you have the most perfect Olympic form. If you can't do that consistently with the same amount of back tension and all that, you're not going to be as accurate as you could be. So, once again, equipment has its limitations. That's all I'm saying. Your form and your ability to do it consistently will have more to do with your shooting than anything. But a nice slick surface like this has, that don't wear out, that doesn't groove over time and stuff like that, it is also going to help you. And notice I got a target out there that I've been shooting today, and you can kind of see the black rub and pulling the arrows out. Like I said, I shoot a lot. So I highly recommend, if you're a tab person and you're looking for a better tab, give Ninja Outdoors, I'm not even sure the name, I know it's Ninja Tabs. You can go do a search on that, or how I always find it, I go to Facebook and I look up Jared Schaefer. He's the owner and a friend of mine, and that's how I get in contact with him. But I'm sure there's various ways of doing it. I know he's got a website, I just don't know what it is, to be honest with you. But once again, I highly recommend this shooting tab if you're going to shoot a tab. If you're going to shoot a glove, you know, there's all kinds of gloves out there. Maybe I'll make a video on the ones that I prefer. I typically tend to prefer something I can feel the string. Over 45 years of shooting longbows, I've gotten to where I can handle, you know, the friction. I've got a pretty good callus on the bottom of my ring finger. One thing that I notice that I tend to do is I tend to, because of the shape of my fingers, when I curl my fingers, this top finger, I barely grasp the string. And I know with Olympic archery, shooting 3 under especially, they always say that about, 30% of the string pressure should be on this one, and about 60% on this one, and this one here just 10 to 20%. That's not how I shoot. I would say 40%, 40%, 20%. This finger here I put on the string, but it's kind of sitting on my pad, and I don't put a lot of pressure. Most of my string bearing comes on my bottom 2 fingers. And like I said, I shoot split finger most of the time. But even when I'm shooting 3 fingers under, because when I curl my fingers, you can see my top finger is way back here. If I was trying to get a deep hook on my top finger, I would have to anchor with this finger almost halfway in, and that would put the string so far away from my eye. As it is, if I keep this string right here line, you can see that when I shoot, how close that is in alignment with my eye, where if I had to move the string out here, look at how far that is out here. So you have to figure out what works best for the shape of your face and the fingers that God gave you. That's just what works for me, and what that causes, I tend to get a callus under my ring finger on my right hand, my drawing hand. But once again, great tabs. You know, I don't know what expensive is anymore. You know, it used to be way back when I started, and I bought the old Cordovan tabs from Paul Bruner up in Montana decades ago. They were a lot cheaper, but everything's more expensive today. So they're right at $40 for this tab. But here's what I'll tell you. This glove costs as much. And I shoot better with this, cleaner. I get a cleaner release with this, and it lasts longer. I've had this one now for about 7 or 8 months. This glove wore out in a year and a half. There's no doubt in my mind this is going to go for years. So it's kind of that buy once, cry once type thing, $40 for a good tab. Another thing that me personally, because I hunt down south in Texas, Oklahoma, that's primarily where I hunt a lot, and it's hot down here. And when I practice all year, it's hot. This much glove on your hand sweats a lot. And I think that's why these gloves tend to break down. These leather gloves break down over time, is that sweat attacks them and stuff. A tab, it's just not against your hand the whole time. When I'm not shooting, it's like that. You know, so there's more air circulation and stuff. This is going to last a lot longer. I can guarantee you that. I'll do an update after I've had this thing for a couple of years, I suppose. But man, I'll tell you, I'm getting the best release I've ever had off of these tabs right here. So, Jared, you convinced an old cantankerous bow hunter that's hard to get me to change things. I find something that works and I tend to stick with it, but you've changed my mind. You know, this year I'm not going to be hunting with a glove near as much as I am going to be hunting with the tab you're about to send me that's split finger. I could go ahead and split this one, but I do have a couple bows. I got an ILF setup that I bought this year, and it's got a flipper type rest. I'm just messing around with ILF. I'm not really a fan on them. To me, they're way too noisy. But with that, I'll shoot that 3 fingers under. And I'll tell you something, the way I shoot split finger and 3 fingers under, because when I shoot 3 fingers under, I anchor in the corner of my mouth right here. But when I'm shooting split finger, I come up and my middle finger comes right here to the corner of my nose. That gives me perfect alignment with my eye. Because of the shape of my face, that's where I need to anchor. If I'm down here, you can kind of see it moves it in too far, and then I wind up hitting my nose. 3 fingers under, for some reason I get away with it. When I'm shooting split, I'm up here. And like I said, I anchor with this right here. It's kind of right behind my nostril. There's my cheekbones right there, and it's in that pocket. And I set my arrows up to where my fletching just touches my nose. That gives me a good solid anchor. But because I have 2 different anchors for split and 3 fingers under, my point of impact's about the same. In other words, my sight picture doesn't change. When I shoot split finger at 20 yards and under, my sight picture is the exact same as if I'm shooting 3 under with the ILF with the raised rest and stuff. My sight picture is just the same. My arrows impact the same. So it's kind of cool that it works out that way, because of the different height of the anchor primarily. Is when I'm hunting, if I want to shoot up, what I've noticed is I'm far more accurate out to 20 yards shooting split finger with this high anchor. But if I'm like 10 to 12 yards at a steep angle, I get a much better sight picture quicker shooting 3 fingers under. So depending on where that buck is, I can shoot either split finger or 3 under and get the same impact. It works for me. I don't know if you'd call that a mild form of string walking or whatever you want to call it, but it just, with my arrow and bow combinations, it just seems to work. I can shoot 3 under with a corner of the mouth anchor, or I can go to split finger with the behind the nostril anchor, and my impact is the exact same out to 20 yards. If I get beyond 20 to 30 yards, definitely the split finger. And then what I do is I drop down to the corner of my mouth with split finger for like a 30-yard shot, and impact point. My sight picture just stays the same. I don't know what to say. It stays the same. So I practice this all the time, and I can go in between the 3 under and the split finger at 20 yards and under. But for those longer shots, I definitely prefer the split finger, corner of the mouth anchor. So So anyway, grab you one of these tabs before the season starts and get to practice with it. I do recommend you learn to trim a tab to where it just barely catches the string. And once again, curl that over before you start trimming that second and that top layer, so you get the proper measurement, so that when it's curled over, all three are lined up. If you measure it flat and cut all three flat, you're going to wind up with your inner layer being longer than your middle and your outer layer, and it's going to cause for a little bit of a sloppiness on release. Anyway, I think this video is long enough. Dave T1963 out.